When a seasoned pilot refuses to fly Elon Musk over a controversial hat, it sparks a fiery showdown that explodes into a global debate. What happened next shook the world and challenged the limits of personal principles. The faint roar of jet engines echoed across the tarmac at Van Nuys Airport, Los Angeles. The air was thick with the hum of activity. Crew members loading luggage, ground staff in high-visibility vests darting between aircraft, and the occasional impatient honk of a transport vehicle. Amid it all, one jet stood apart, gleaming in the midday sun. Its sleek silhouette screamed wealth and exclusivity, a Gulfstream G700, the kind of plane reserved for the ultra-rich. Captain Richard "Rick" Gaines, a veteran pilot with over 25 years of experience, stood near the aircraft stairs. His neatly pressed uniform bore the insignia of a man who had seen the world from 40,000 feet up. Yet, despite his polished demeanor, there was a tension in his stance. Rick had always believed in professionalism and service above all else. But today, something was different. Today, his principles were being tested. A black Tesla Model X glided onto the tarmac, its doors rising like wings. Out stepped Elon Musk, clad in a black bomber jacket, jeans, and the infamous red MAGA hat perched on his head. The sight of the hat immediately drew Rick's attention. He had flown countless high-profile figures before, CEOs, celebrities, even politicians, but this was new territory. Elon Musk, the genius billionaire, Rick thought to himself, and he shows up in that hat. Musk approached, exuding his usual air of nonchalance. "Captain Gaines, I assume?" His voice was calm, but his reputation for demanding absolute control preceded him. Rick straightened his back. "Yes, Mr. Musk. Everything is ready for departure. Destination, Austin, Texas." But as Musk moved closer, Rick's eyes locked on the hat once more. He felt a pang of conflict. For years, he'd flown clients regardless of their politics or personal beliefs. Yet, something about this moment felt different. His mind raced. Could he set aside his convictions for the sake of professionalism? Should he? Mr. Musk, Rick began, his tone measured but firm. "I can't, in good conscience, be part of this flight." Musk blinked, clearly caught off guard. "Excuse me?" Rick gestured subtly toward the hat. "That symbol, what it represents. It's something I can't align myself with. I'm sorry, but I won't be flying you today." For a moment there was silence. The ground crew, who had been bustling nearby, froze mid-task, their eyes darting toward the unfolding confrontation. Musk's expression shifted from surprise to something colder, the kind of look reserved for those who dared to challenge him. "You do realize this is my jet, right?" Musk said, his voice low and sharp. "I pay you." Rick stood his ground. "Yes, sir, and I respect that. But I also respect my own principles." The air between them grew taut. Musk's jaw tightened. The standoff had begun. What Musk does next would send shockwaves far beyond this runway. Musk's eyes narrowed, his mind clearly calculating his next step. A man of his stature wasn't used to hearing the word no, let alone from someone he considered a subordinate. For a moment, the only sound was the distant whine of a departing jet. Rick stood firm, his heart pounding beneath his composed exterior. He had braced for this, the inevitable confrontation with one of the most powerful men in the world. Yet, even as Musk's stare bore into him, Rick's resolve held. Principles weren't negotiable, not even for a billionaire. "You know," Musk began, his voice oddly calm, "I've dealt with resistance before. Governments, corporations, competitors, they all think they can push back. But they forget who they're dealing with." He leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice. "Tell me, Captain, what's your price? Double your rate? Triple?" Rick's face remained unmoved. "It's not about money, Mr. Musk. It's about integrity. Musk let out a short laugh, sharp and dismissive. Integrity? You think your stance here changes anything? You think the world will applaud you for this? Let me tell you something. Principles don't pay bills. Rick's lips tightened. Maybe not. But I'd rather sleep at night knowing I didn't compromise them. The atmosphere grew heavier. Musk pulled out his phone, scrolling swiftly. Fine, he said, his tone clipped. If you won't fly me, I'll find someone who will. He made a quick call, his words clipped and efficient. I need a replacement pilot at Van Nuys. Now, no excuses. Rick crossed his arms, watching as Musk paced back toward his car. The ground crew stood awkwardly, unsure whether to intervene or stay silent. One technician whispered to another, "This is going to be all over Twitter in an hour." They weren't wrong. Within minutes, a tweet appeared on Musk's account. *Pilot refuses to fly me because of a hat. Principles are a luxury for people who don't need to work for a living. Let's see how the public feels about this. The reaction was immediate. Social media exploded with opinions. Hashtags #pilot principles and #Elon versus integrity were plastered across every platform. Supporters of Musk applauded his stance, while others rallied behind Rick, calling him a hero for standing up to one of the world's most powerful figures. Rick's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from his wife, Margaret, popped up. What's happening? Your name is everywhere. He didn't reply, not yet. The situation had escalated faster than he'd expected, and there was no turning back now. As the minutes ticked by, a replacement pilot did arrive. A younger man, clearly eager to please. Musk barely acknowledged Rick as he ascended the jet stairs, the MAGA hat still prominently displayed. But before the door closed, Musk turned back, locking eyes with Rick. "Enjoy your principles, Captain," he said with a smirk. "Let's see where they get you." Rick didn't flinch. "Safe travels, Mr. Musk." The jet roared to life and took off, leaving Rick standing alone on the tarmac. But the battle was far from over. What followed wasn't just a flight. It was a storm that no one saw coming. As the Gulf Stream disappeared into the horizon, Rick returned to the small terminal, where a crowd had begun to gather. Word of the confrontation had spread beyond the airstrip, and it didn't take long before reporters and camera crews flooded the space. "Captain Gaines, is it true you refused to fly Elon Musk because of his political views?" one reporter shouted. Rick sighed, adjusting his tie. "It's not about politics. It's about what that hat represents to me. As a professional, I've flown people from all walks of life. But there are times when you have to draw a line, and today was one of those times." The microphones shoved in his face captured every word, and Rick knew he'd just ignited a national debate. By the time he reached his car in the parking lot, the chaos online had tripled. News outlets ran headlines like "Pilot takes a stand against Musk" and "Elon Musk challenges woke culture in private jet showdown." Rick slumped into the driver's seat, his mind spinning. He opened his phone to see dozens of missed calls and messages. His wife had sent a voicemail. "Rick, the kids saw you on TV. Call me. We need to talk." Before he could respond, a notification popped up. Elon Musk had gone live on X, formerly Twitter. Against his better judgment, Rick clicked the link. The stream showed Musk reclining in the Gulfstream's plush leather seat, the infamous hat tilted slightly to the side. "Look," Musk began, his tone casual but calculated. "I respect people who stand for their beliefs. But this isn't about values. It's about professionalism. Imagine if every service worker refused to do their job because of a customer's opinion. Where would we be then?" The comments poured in thousands every second. Some called Musk a bully, while others accused Rick of being overly sensitive. The world had divided into two camps, each digging in deeper. Rick closed the app and rubbed his temples. The media frenzy had begun, and it wasn't slowing down. His phone buzzed again. This time, an unknown number. He hesitated but answered. "Captain Gaines, this is Karen Albright from CNN. We'd like to schedule an exclusive interview with you to discuss today's incident." "I appreciate the offer, Miss Albright," Rick replied, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "But I'm not looking to be the center of attention." "Just think about it," Karen pressed. "You've sparked a national conversation. People want to hear your side." Rick hung up without committing. His side. He'd already made his statement. Yet, as he drove home, the weight of his decision began to sink in. His stance had cost him more than just a flight. It had thrust him into the crosshairs of a cultural battlefield he wasn't prepared for. Back home, his wife Margaret was waiting at the door. Her arms were crossed, and her face was a mix of concern and frustration. "You couldn't just fly him and come home?" she asked as he stepped inside. Rick placed his bag on the counter and met her gaze. "Margaret, I couldn't. That hat, it's a symbol of division, of everything I stand against. I'd be betraying myself." "And now," she gestured toward the TV, where news anchors dissected the event in real time, "our kids are asking why everyone's mad at their dad. This isn't just about you anymore, Rick." The word stung, but Rick held firm. "Sometimes doing the right thing means paying a price. I won't apologize for that." The tension in the room was thick, but before Margaret could respond, another breaking news alert flashed on the TV. Musk's jet had landed in Austin, where a crowd of supporters greeted him like a hero. Holding a press conference on the tarmac, Musk doubled down, calling Rick's refusal unprofessional and petty. As the camera panned across the crowd, signs reading freedom of choice and no woke pilots filled the screen. Rick stared in disbelief. This wasn't just a personal issue anymore. It was a full-blown cultural war. But the real twist was yet to come, a revelation that would shift the narrative entirely. The days following the incident turned Rick's life upside down. News vans camped outside his modest home in Burbank, California, reporters angling for a statement. The story had exploded far beyond the airport, sparking fierce debates on cable news and social media. Rick watched it all unfold from the confines of his living room. Each channel presented a different angle. Some praised him as a man of integrity, while others painted him as a symbol of cancel culture run amok. His wife Margaret was glued to her phone, scrolling through endless comments, some supportive, others venomous. "They're saying you're a hero," she said one evening, her tone laced with skepticism. "But they're also saying you should lose your license." Rick sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "I didn't do this for anyone's approval, Margaret. I just couldn't look the other way." Her expression softened, but the tension lingered. The stakes were higher than he'd anticipated, and the weight of the consequences bore down on him. He knew this wasn't just about him anymore. It was about his family, his career, and a much larger cultural divide. Then came the email. It arrived late at night, long after Margaret and the kids had gone to bed. The subject line read, "Urgent message from Elon Musk." Rick hesitated, his cursor hovering over the message. Against his better judgment, he clicked. The email was direct and concise, written in Musk's signature no-frills style. "Asterisk Captain Gaines, you've made your point. Let's see how far you're willing to take it. I'd like to invite you to a public debate, live-streamed for the world to see. No scripts, no PR teams, just you and me. Let's give people the transparency they claim to want. Let me know if you have the courage to back up your convictions. Elon asterisk." Rick leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. A public debate? The very thought made his stomach churn. Musk was no stranger to the spotlight, while Rick had spent his career in the quiet, disciplined world of aviation. This wasn't his arena, yet the challenge gnawed at him. Refusing would make him seem weak, hypocritical, even. Accepting, on the other hand, would thrust him even deeper into the public eye, a place he'd never wanted to be. By morning, the email had leaked. Headlines screamed, "Musk calls out pilot for live debate." Rick's phone buzzed incessantly with calls from reporters and even former colleagues. Everyone wanted to know, would he accept? Margaret's voice cut through the chaos as he stared at the screen. "Are you really considering this?" "I don't know," Rick admitted. "If I do, it's not just about me anymore. It's about everything that it stands for, everything we've been through as a country." "But can you handle it?" she asked, her concern evident. "Musk is a billionaire with the world's attention. He'll tear you apart." Rick met her gaze, his resolve hardening. "Maybe, but if I stay silent, I'm just as complicit as anyone else who looks the other way." The debate was set for Friday evening, hosted by a prominent news network and broadcasted globally. The announcement sent shockwaves through every corner of the internet. People took sides, placing bets on who would come out on top. Musk, the tech titan, or Rick, the steadfast pilot. On the day of the debate, Rick stood backstage, adjusting his tie. His palms were clammy, and his heart hammered against his ribs. But as he stepped onto the stage and faced Musk across the table, something shifted. This wasn't about winning or losing. It was about standing for what he believed in, no matter the cost. The studio lights were blinding, and the murmurs of the live audience created a faint hum in the background. Rick sat stiffly in his chair, his hands clasped in front of him. Across from him, Musk lounged confidently, as if the stage was his natural habitat. Between them sat the moderator, a seasoned journalist tasked with keeping the discussion on track. The opening question was deceptively simple. "Captain Gaines, can you explain why you refused to fly Mr. Musk?" Rick cleared his throat, his voice steady despite the weight of millions watching. "It wasn't about Mr. Musk personally. It was about the hat. To me, it's a symbol of division and intolerance. I couldn't, in good conscience, be part of that. Flying is more than a job to me. It's a responsibility. And that responsibility includes standing up for what I believe in." Musk smirked, his reply sharp. "So your beliefs give you the right to refuse service? What if a doctor refused to treat a patient because of their political views? Where does it stop, Captain?" The audience murmured, divided as ever. Rick leaned forward. "This isn't about refusing service lightly. This is about knowing where you draw the line. For me, that line is supporting something I fundamentally disagree with." The conversation grew tense as Musk, ever the strategist, steered the debate toward broader issues. "We live in a world where people are too sensitive, too quick to judge. A hat is just a hat. The fact that you turned this into a national spectacle says more about you than it does about me." Rick refused to be rattled. "It's not just a hat, Mr. Musk. It's a statement. And sometimes, silence is complicity." For over an hour, the two men traded barbs and arguments. Musk wielded his sharp intellect and charm, while Rick countered with grounded honesty and conviction. The audience, both in the studio and online, was split. Some cheered Musk's defiance, while others found Rick's unwavering principles inspiring. Then came the twist. Near the end of the debate, the moderator posed a question to Musk. "Do you believe symbols like the MAGA hat carry a responsibility for the divisions they've caused?" Musk paused, his confidence wavering for the first time. "I believe people assign meaning to symbols. They're only as powerful as we let them be." The moderator turned to Rick. "Captain Gaines, your response?" Rick took a deep breath. "Symbols may not hold power on their own, but they represent the people who wield them, and that's why they matter. This isn't about politics. It's about empathy, about understanding how actions and choices impact others. The room fell silent as Rick's words hung in the air. For a moment, even Musk seemed to consider them. But the aftermath of the debate would bring revelations neither of them saw coming. The debate ended with no clear winner. Both Rick and Musk had their moments, and the world was as divided as ever. Social media lit up with hashtags supporting each side. Hashtag Team Musk and hashtag Team Rick. For Rick, however, the battle wasn't about winning public favor. It was about staying true to himself. The next morning, Rick woke to an email from the airline's corporate office. It read, Captain Gaines, due to the highly publicized nature of recent events, we are placing you on temporary leave while we evaluate the situation. Please refrain from speaking to the press until further notice. Rick sighed. He'd seen it coming. The airline couldn't afford to take sides in such a polarizing situation. Still, the news stung. Flying wasn't just his career, it was his identity. Margaret found him sitting at the kitchen table, staring at his coffee. "What now?" she asked gently. "I don't know," he admitted. "I stood up for what I believed in, but at what cost?" Before she could answer, the doorbell rang. Rick opened it to find a young woman holding a microphone, a cameraman close behind her. "Captain Gaines," she began. "I'm with an independent news outlet. We've been following your story, and there's something you need to see." She handed him a tablet with a video queued up. It was footage of Musk recorded just after the debate. He was speaking candidly to a group of supporters, his tone softer than usual. "Look," Musk said in the video, "I don't agree with the captain's decision, but I respect his conviction. The truth is, we need more people who stand for something, even if we don't see eye to eye. What he did took guts. Maybe we all need to think a little harder about the symbols we wear and the messages we send." Rick stared at the screen, stunned. "Why would he say that?" he asked. "Maybe you got through to him," the reporter replied. "People are listening, Captain. Your stand made an impact." The video quickly went viral, sparking a new wave of conversation. Some praised Musk for acknowledging Rick's integrity, while others criticized him for softening his stance. For Rick, though, it was a moment of unexpected validation. Over the next few weeks, Rick's life began to settle. The airline reinstated him after a thorough review, citing his professionalism and years of service. Musk, true to form, moved on to his next big project. But the debate lingered in the public consciousness. Rick found himself approached by strangers in airports, some thanking him for his courage, others debating his decision. Each encounter reminded him of the ripple effect his actions had created. One evening, as he sat with Margaret on their porch, she turned to him. "Do you regret it?" He shook his head. "No. If nothing else, it made people think. Maybe that's all we can hope for." The story didn't end with a tidy resolution or universal agreement, but it left a lasting impression. A reminder of the power of conviction and the importance of standing up for what you believe in, even when it's not easy. And that's the lesson. Principles may cost you, but they're what define you. Never trade them for convenience.